Welcome to the In Love with PMDD podcast. I am your host, Dr. Rose, your PMDD Relationship psychotraumatologist, and I help you stop the monthly PMDD breakups. PMDD is premenstrual dysphoric disorder. It is in approximately 1 in 5 women, and it makes you want to break up with your partner approximately 1 to 2 weeks before your period every single month. So as someone who has suffered with PMDD for over 18 years, I dedicated my doctorate practice to helping partners navigate those monthly PMDD breakups with everything from attachment styles, triggers, sensitivity to noise, sensitivity to touch, all of the things that you really struggle with when you're in PMDD. And I also dedicated my dissertation to a phenomenological study of the relationship experiences of partners of individuals who suffer with premenstrual dysphoric disorder. So I'm not just here to help the sufferer, the one who is suffering with PMDD. I am here for the partners as well. So if you need those private sessions, make sure you go to inlovewithpmdd.com and get those tools. So let's get into this week's PMDD trauma transformational tools that is going to help you stop the monthly breakups and stop the suffering and stress in your PMDD relationship. Let's get into it. I want to talk to you today about the one thing that kept ruining my PMDD relationship. No matter how much I tried, and month after month, I would go through the same cycle of going into everything's going well and I'm feeling really relieved and I'm thinking it's going to be a good PMDD month. And then the next thing I know, I have this overwhelming sense of fear because I feel the PMDD symptoms come on and I start noticing that I'm reacting differently to my PMDD partner. And I'm also noticing that he's triggered by my symptoms showing up. And then next thing I know, me and my PMDD partner are not on the same page anymore. And I almost always had this overwhelming sense of fear that we were going to go right back into the same cycle and go back to those horrible PMDD moments that we had in the past. And that fear almost ruined my relationship because it really stopped me from being able to enjoy my PMDD partner because I couldn't enjoy being with them knowing that I had this fear going on. I always was waiting for something to happen. I was waiting for the next argument. I was waiting for the next thing that they were going to say and do that was going to trigger me. I was on high alert. And I no longer saw my PMDD partner as somebody that I wanted to be with. I automatically saw them as something I was trying to avoid. I was trying to avoid all of my interactions with my partner because I didn't want to have those negative experiences. I didn't want to have those negative emotions of anxiety and fear and overwhelmed and stressed and frustrated and feeling of hopelessness that I was going to continue to have months and months and months of all of this drama with PMDD. And I feel like no matter what I was trying, I couldn't let go of the fear that I had about being with my partner. And I began to think, you know what, if this is what my life is going to be like, living in this sense of fear, then I don't want to be in this relationship because it's like I couldn't calm down. I was on this high emotional roller coaster and it was so overwhelming and it was impacting every aspect of my life. I would go to bed with this fear. I would wake up with this fear. And the fear was, I really had to sit with myself and say, what is it that I am afraid of? And I want you to do this exercise with me. When you really think about your PMDD partner, when you think about everything that's going on in your relationship, if you know that you're experiencing some sort of fear about being with them, not in your good days, but in your bad days, like what is the fear that you're experiencing? And then think about, what are you afraid of? What do you really think is going to happen if you stay in this relationship? Is it the reaction of your partner? Because for me, I was scared of words that may be said to trigger me. So I know for a fact that there are certain statements, there are certain ways that my partner could say that would trigger me to say and do different things, and I would explode into PMDD rage. And some of those things were part of his natural character. It was kind of like if he started asking me so many questions about things that I was doing, so he would naturally just do it, like not even trying to trigger me. I knew that he was going to do it because it was part of who he was. And I knew how I was going to respond. And because I know that that's never ended well, because I know the pattern, because it's like, here we go again. Have you ever felt like that when your partner has said or done something to you when you are in PMDD and you feel triggered and you literally think, here we go again. Like it's about to ruin, the rest of my PMDD. And a lot of times this fear would happen in the beginning of PMDD. Like I have approximately 14 days of PMDD, and I would have this fear probably on day 3. So in my mind, my fear was that I was going to spend the next, 12 days in agony, because now my relationship is going to be something stressful. Now I'm going to be arguing with them, because it's almost like once I had the initial argument, nothing seemed the same about my partner. Once I initially started arguing about something, everything about them looked different. The way I perceived them looked different. The way I responded to their phone calls or seeing them in person was different. Like when I wasn't in PMDD and I would go to see my partner and we would spend time together, I would be excited to see him. Excited, like, oh, I can't wait till this day so I can see him and think about all the things we're going to do and how much fun we're going to have. But when I knew that I was going to see my PMDD partner and I was in PMDD, I had this fear of like, oh no, I'm going to see him for a weekend. How many days am I going to have to make it through? Like I literally dreaded spending that time because I was waiting for the trigger to happen. And I feel like that sense of waiting is torturous, because even if your partner hasn't done anything, you're steady looking and waiting for them. This is it. And you expect it's going to begin to show up in your life because you're focused on it. So I'm going to give you some tools on what you can do to stop that fear from ruining your PMDD relationship. Because when you're living in that state of fear, scared about what's going to happen in the future, then you're not enjoying your partner, and you're also suffering more with PMDD because that fear ignites your anxiety. So you end up really shaky. I remember I was so nervous. So like when he would call, I immediately got anxiety. And then I was just trying to hurry up and get off the phone because I really just didn't want to hear anything that he had to say. And I would literally consider it a win if I got on the phone and we spoke really quickly. And then I was almost thinking to myself, okay, is that enough? Like, can I go now? And it's because I wanted to hurry up and just get off the phone and to stop the torture, to stop the feeling of wondering what's going to happen next. The fear of the unknown. Like, how bad is this going to get? Am I going to be able to control myself? The answer to that was probably no. And then how many days are we going to be talking about the argument? Because every single time we would talk about the argument and I was still in PMDD, I would get angry all over again. Even if I was angry and we talked about it and we came to a conclusion, by the time we talked about it again, it was like I was angry all over again. And I felt like they didn't understand me. I felt like that wasn't the right person for me, because you begin to think, well, if you don't understand me, then maybe we shouldn't be together. Maybe I should be with someone who understands me. And then now you're starting to look away from your relationship. You're not thinking about how things are going to be, how you're going to work through things. You're thinking about how you're going to get out of it. And you're getting into an exit plan. And this is where the breakups come in, because you start to justify in your mind why you should break up with your PMDD partner. And then you get exhausted, because it really started to affect my sleep. When I wasn't getting sleep and I was constantly dealing with the arguments, who did I blame it on? My partner. I said, because we're arguing, I can't get sleep. And because I can't get sleep, the next day I'm exhausted. And then everything seems so overwhelming. And then I'm stressed. And then I'm irritable towards, maybe I'm irritable at work, or I'm irritable towards my child. And then I'm thinking to myself, you're the reason that I can't handle certain things at work, or I can't handle certain things with my children, because if you didn't immediately trigger me, we wouldn't be in this situation. So now I'm pointing the blame at my partner. And I told you in previous episodes, blaming and shaming is the number one thing to get your partner to become defensive and act out of character. And it happened like clockwork every single time. Instead of me taking responsibility for me being in that fear-filled state, I blamed it on my partner and they got defensive. And as soon as I said, and you, then they said, and you, and they start bringing up all these things from the past of, well, you didn't do this, and you, because of you, we couldn't do this. And because you have PMDD, and when you're in PMDD, and your partner starts to mention the fact that you're in PMDD and all the ways that it's ruining your relationship and all of the things that would be right in the relationship if you didn't go into PMDD, then you begin to get defensive because you're defending yourself, because you're like, I'm not the only one with the problem. And you're going back and forth in these arguments. And it all started because you went into PMDD with this fear because you knew what was going to happen. You're predicting what was going to happen. You were experiencing the negative emotions even before your partner did anything negative. I've done this so many times where I think back on it. It's like my partner didn't even do anything yet. They just got in the car, but then they get home. And because I'm off, so that's the first thing I want to let you know. When you're in that fear-filled state, you're off. Your partner could feel your energy is off. You're going to have this sense of anxiety, this sense of you being on high alert, this sense of you shutting down and being really avoidant. They're going to notice that shift. And when you shift, your partner shifts. And then next thing you know, your fear is going to come to fruition. It's going to come to life because everything that you feared is going to become your reality. And it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy because when they do start acting crazy and they do start acting out of character, you're like, see, I knew it. I knew they were going to do this. I knew they were going to say this. I knew they were going to trigger me. I knew. But what I want to let you know is a lot of what you know is projected by the fear that you have because you're focused on it. And what you are really focused on, it's going to happen. It's going to happen because you're looking for it. You ever heard that saying, what you look for, you will find? So I'm going to give you some ways of getting out of that mindset because it's exhausting. It's not fun at all. And the first way is I want you to identify what your deepest, darkest fear is about your relationship and your partner when you get into PMDD. Mine was, at the time, I felt like my partner was taking away my freedom. I felt like I was suffocating. I felt like my partner was asking me to do things that I wasn't capable of doing. My partner was saying, when you get into PMDD, I need you to be this way. And I knew for sure that whatever way he wanted me to be when I was in PMDD, I wasn't going to be able to do that. So I felt that I wasn't free to just be myself in PMDD in the midst of my suffering. I couldn't just suffer in the way that I needed to. I couldn't implement other strategies to cope with it because everything that I was doing to cope was going against everything that he needed. So I kind of felt like the only way I can cope with my PMDD is if I get out of this relationship and I just be able to do it on my own. It's like, how can I do what I need to do to cope with these PMDD symptoms if the things that I'm doing to cope are triggering you? So you want me to just pretend like everything's normal. I had a conversation with my partner and I said, hey, what is it that you need when I'm in PMDD? And he's like, well, I need to feel loved. I need love. I need affection. I need attention. I need to be heard. And that list just sounded so long for me that I was like, that's too much. Like I immediately wrote it off like, well, then you should probably be with someone who doesn't have PMDD because there's no way on Bob's green earth that I'm going to be able to give you what it is that you need. And so the first mistake that I made was making his request a big thing. Because a lot of times what your partner needs is just for you to do the things that you're effortlessly doing when PMDD is not there. That list sounded so overwhelming to me. And I didn't even attempt to try to figure out, okay, how can I show up for him in a way that he needs me to? I didn't even try because it seemed so overwhelming. So the first thing I want you to do is to really think about what your partner's asking for. Like, say if your partner's love language is physical touch and you don't like being touched, when you're in PMDD, which is a lot of us, we're not into the physical part. It makes our skin crawl. You're repulsed by your PMDD partner. They don't even look the same. So if they were to tell you, oh, when you're in PMDD, I need you to like have sex with me, you would be like, what like, I can't do that. Like, I can barely, have you hold my hand, but you want me to have sex with you? Absolutely not. Well, what I want to let you know to get rid of that fear, because it's kind of like, I don't even want to go to bed because I already know that they want to have sex. And that really disgusts me right now. So I don't even want to go in the room. When you have that fear, you start distancing yourself from your PMDD partner. You try to get away from them because you know that you're not going to be able to meet their needs, and you don't even want to be in that situation where your partner has that level of expectation on you that you can't even meet. It's like, I already know I can't give you what it is that you need. That fear and anxiety that they're going to ask about it. They're going to ask you like, hey, can you do this? Or they're going to expect it. The fear of expectation, the fear that your partner is going to expect something from you that you're not going to be able to give them is very real. And the first thing that you can do about that is think about what they're requesting and then do a lesser version of it. So say if your partner's like, sometimes it's not about the sex itself. So a sex is a way for your partner to feel connected to you again, for you to feel loved. It's almost like, this is the one thing that we have between us. It's only between us. This act, I only have sex with my partner. And if your partner is, I want you to have sex with me, they're probably wanting to feel connected because they're feeling really disconnected, because your PMDD symptoms have a way of taking over you. They can't see you. So they feel like, maybe if I have sex, I will feel them again. I will feel connected. So it might just be that your partner doesn't really need to have sex, but they just need to physically feel connected to you, if that's their love language. And then maybe you say to yourself, okay, I'm not going to be able to have sex, but you do something else to make them physically feel connected to you. You hold their hand, you lay on their chest, you cuddle with them, you do certain physical things, and that will appease them and give them that same sense that they're thinking of, where they want to feel connected without you having to go against something that's going to literally cause you to suffer. So don't take their request and just throw the whole request away, because then it takes the fear off. So say if your partner does want to have sex with you, and instead of having sex, you guys just sit around and watch a movie, and you're like laying on him, or you're touching him or her, and you're just letting them feel you. And then just being in their presence and seeing that that's enough will ease your fear. You're going to stop having the fear when you recognize that the request that your partner is making is not too big. So what I had to do this with my PMDD partner, because I assumed that when my PMDD partner came home, everything had to be in the right place. Everything had to be, because, he is way neater than I am. And I don't like to hear about things being out of order, because as you know, when we're in PMDD, like, of course, things are out of order because we're not doing all the things that we normally do. We let certain things go by the wayside. But what happens is I don't like hearing that things are out of place when I'm in PMDD, because it's like a reminder, like, I know, I need to fold the laundry. I see with my own eyes, I see that basket of clothes that hasn't been folded since, before PMDD. And so I have these fears that he's going to say all these things and just be judgmental and criticizing things, not saying it in a way of like, hey, you need to do this, but just mentioning certain things. So he never tells me like, oh, you need to do this, or why isn't this clean? Sometimes it's just a mention of something. And then I internalize it and I feel bad about it, because as you know, when we're in PMDD, our self-esteem takes a hit. So like any slight little mention of something, you can get really offended by your partner and just say, I know. And then next thing you know, you're feeling like this horrible person. And that can give you a lot of fear, because you're fearing being around them, that they're going to say something or do something that's going to cause you to feel worse about yourself. And with this, I really just had to rip the Band-Aid off, because I was stalling him coming to visit. I was stalling him coming to the house during PMDD. I was just like, I know how it's going to be. I was telling myself stories in my mind. I know how it's going to be. I already know what he's going to say. I already know what they're going to do. Like, you're creating a reality that hasn't actually happened yet. And you're constantly saying it in your mind, even before it's happened. And so when I said, you know what, I'm just going to let him come visit, he ended up visiting, and none of what I thought in my mind happened. And I didn't even tell him my fears, but it just didn't happen. And that's when I realized, like, oh my goodness, I'm the one. I'm telling myself this story. I want you to open your mind to the possibility that what you're thinking in your mind may not become your reality. So that's the second PMDD trauma transformational tool. And that is, stop taking the stories that you're telling yourself in your mind as facts. It is a possibility that this could happen, but it's also a possibility that it can't happen. So I want you to realign your thinking with what would be best case scenario. So in my mind, best case scenario was that he comes home and he just relaxes and we just enjoy each other's company. So when I began to align what I wanted to see with what I was focusing on, I didn't have that fear about seeing him and having him come visit and trigger me anymore. I was beginning to get a little bit of that excitement back about seeing my partner, because now I was no longer expecting the worst. I was expecting the best. And what happened? He showed up as I expected him to. So your PMDD partner can feel your energy shift. So when he showed up, I automatically started giving him some of the things that he wanted. So a lot of times the things that you want from your PMDD partner is tied to how your energy is and how you're showing up. So if my PMDD partner wants to feel loved and given attention and affection and stuff, if I do that, he eases my mind and doesn't trigger me in certain ways that I expect him to. So a lot of the times I noticed when he was triggering me, it was because he was left in that state of not getting what it is that he needed. And I didn't see earlier in my journey, I didn't see the connection between the two. I didn't see, for example, I'll give you my partner, for example. He's very simple with what it is that he wants because he's very clear. I don't mean simple as in it's easy. I mean simple as in he's giving me the guidelines of what it is that he needs. And that doesn't change when I go into PMDD. It just becomes harder when I get into PMDD, but it's really, really straightforward. He wants love, affection, and attention. So what I want you to do is think about your PMDD partner. What is it that they need? And I want you to break it down into 3 words, 3 actionable words. Because when you make it into this long laundry list of things, you automatically think, I can't possibly do this. I can't give this to them. And you start to have that fear again, and you start to lock up, and you start to shut down, and you start to get resentful that you're even feeling this way. So if I think about love, affection, and attention, I can attach a lot of actionable things to those 3 words that align with what I'm able to do when I'm in PMDD. So if I know when I get into PMDD, I'm going to want my me time, I'm going to want this. When I give my partner the love, affection, and attention, he in turn gives me the space that I'm wanting, because I have an avoidant attachment style. When I'm in PMDD, I become really avoidant. But if I compartmentalize and say, you know what, I know that I want my me time. I know that this is what I need in the moment, but I'm going to carve out some time, not the whole time. I'm going to carve out some time in my day, every day, to give him love, affection, and attention. 3 things. When I do that, my partner completely transformed as far as how he was showing up for me when I was in PMDD, because he got what he needed. And I know the ego in us is like, how come they get to have what they need when we're the ones suffering? Why should I have to do anything for them? They're supposed to be doing things for us. And here's your answer. I know I've asked myself this question so many times. The answer is because you're still in an intimate relationship and you're still making a choice to. So unless you've actually gotten to the point where you've broken up with your PMDD partner, where you've actually said, you know what, I don't want to be with you, then if you haven't done that and you're still in the relationship, you still have an obligation to meet your partner's needs in some capacity. I'm not saying burn yourself out. I'm not saying go to where it's enhancing your suffering. But you have to be able to map out what you're able to do during PMDD and communicate that to your partner in a way and say, how about this? Or even try it. Like a lot of the things that I've done, I've not told my partner, like, hey, this month I'm going to try to give you love, affection, and attention in this way. I've kind of just done it. And when I've done it in my way, in a way that felt comfortable to me, he's giving me everything that I needed as far as support when I'm in PMDD. And it's almost like you can't expect to starve your PMDD partner and for them to still show up and be supportive of you when you're in PMDD. I'm going to say that again. You cannot expect to starve your PMDD partner and still expect them to show up and support you when you're in PMDD. If we have that mindset of I'm the victim, everything's happening to me, and my partner should just figure it out and do whatever they need to do on their own to survive. They have symptoms too, and a lot of those symptoms are from dealing with what's going on with us in PMDD. They have to shift their whole mindset when we go into PMDD. They have to, just like we shift into PMDD, they have to shift how they show up. They have to know, okay, I can't say this, I can't say that, I should do this, I shouldn't do that. And a lot of the PMDD partners don't even have any guidelines. So that's even more fear and anxiety because they're just, like my partner says, I feel like I'm walking on eggshells. Like it's hard because with PMDD, I know my symptoms are different every day. And if I knew that I was waking up to someone, AKA me, who is going to have these various symptoms every single day and these various requirements and demands every single day that I don't even know if I'm going to be able to meet, like that puts a lot of anxiety on your partner because they're like, okay, what am I going to have to deal with today? What version of my partner is going to show up today? Because I can tell you, when I check in with my partner every single day when I'm in PMDD, it's different every single day. So there's not even a way. Yes, you can track when a person's in PMDD, but you can't track how they're going to be. Because my symptoms every single month, I call them the PMDD highlights. Some symptoms are worse than the others. And I react to the symptoms worse than the others. Like this month, I've had really bad insomnia. I feel like I've gotten like 3 to 4 hours of sleep only for the past 3 days. And it's caused me to get delirious. So now if I'm at the point where I'm delirious, I'm showing up in my relationship being delirious, meaning I'm not really focused. I'm kind of like over the place. For sure irritable and frustrated and cranky and all these things. And when you have the lack of sleep, it just makes your PMDD symptoms even worse. And so I want you to really get clear on how you can best meet your PMDD partner's needs, and then be clear on what you can do to contribute to your PMDD partner's health as well, so that they can be supportive towards you. This is a give and take. It's not a one-sided thing. And what I want you to stop doing, and when I'm telling you, I want you to stop doing it, I'm pretty sure it's because we've all done it, is measure your efforts in comparison to your PMDD partner's efforts. I want you to stop listing off everything that you do and comparing it to what your PMDD partner does, because it's going to make you look at your PMDD partner and it's going to get you back into that mindset of blaming and shaming and having that fear mindset of being around them, because you're just going to assume the worst and the worst is going to show up, and then you're going to blame them for the worst, and then you're going to end up in an argument, and then the cycle is just going to keep going for month after month after month. Same cycle. And it's all stemming from this one thing that you're doing that is ruining your PMDD relationship. And that is living in fear of your PMDD relationship and living in fear of your PMDD partner. Because fear overtakes you and it stays with you long, 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 long after your partner leaves. So it's not just like I would have the fear even when my PMDD partner wasn't around me. I would be fearing the next visit. Like, can you imagine? You're not going to see your partner for another couple of weeks, and you got through one visit, and then you're fearing the next time. You're like, when's the next time I'm going to see them? Or you may be fearing going home. You may be at work. You're having all these PMDD symptoms, and you're like, oh, I'm about to go work. I get off work. I'm about to go see my PMDD partner. I know that this is not going to be the way that I want it to be. Like, I know my partner's going to say something, and you're living in fear. So you're coming into the house with that fear mindset. Shift your mind outside of the fear. And this is my last PMDD trauma transformational tool I'm going to share today. I'm going to continue this series some more, but I want to leave you with this because I don't want to give you too many actionable items to where it's too overwhelming. I want you to write down, after you've written down your deepest, darkest fears about your PMDD partner, I want you to write down what you want your relationship with your PMDD partner to look like. This is something that I really work deeply with my private PMDD clients, and that is really focusing on the vision. And I know that if I have a clear vision of the way I want my partner to show up, because sometimes I remember my partner has said, oh, what do you want me to do? I don't know what I want you. And I said, I don't know what I want you to do, but I know what you're doing is not enough. Like, you get into that mindset of, my PMDD partner is not helpful. They're not doing enough, but you can't really put your finger on it and tell them, hey, I need you to do this. Or if they say, oh, I can't do that, or they don't do that, then you need to negotiate with them. Okay, what can you do? Both of you should be doing something actively to contribute to your relationship. And if you don't have that balance, if you don't have that mapped out, and that's something that you need help with, then this is the perfect time to join me, you and your partner, for my monthly private PMDD coaching. I'm only opening up 10 spots. 2 of them are taken, so I only have 8 more spots. And that's all the clients that I'm taking for the rest of the year. Once these spots are taken, I'm not going to be accepting any more private clients. We're in November. I'm not going to be accepting any more for the remainder of the year because I have to give that individualized, really daily. When you work with me privately, because I know I've had a lot of consultations and they kind of like, how does that work? How does working with you work? And what it is we have 90-minute sessions on a weekly basis with homework. And we're talking about specific customized PMDD transformational tools for your relationship. I never give you cookie cutter things and just say, oh, here's something and it's going to work. It's going to work for you every single day. Like, I have my 10 ways to manage your PMDD rage in your relationship. I have that ebook on my website. If you haven't gotten it, go to my website, www.inlovewithpmdd.com. I give that to you for free. And that is a very basic way of just minimizing the PMDD rage, which is one of the biggest things that we suffer with. And I give that to you, and you can feel free to use that in your relationship. But what I do with my private clients is I take the tools that you hear on the podcast and that I also have, and I optimize them to what is really going on in your relationship. And that's where the progress is really made, because it's one thing from just hearing what I'm saying, but sometimes you don't know how to implement it. It's like, yeah, what you're saying is really making sense to me, but I don't know how to apply that to my specific relationship. And so I give you the tools, not only just the tools, but the guidance on how to use the tools in your relationship. And we meet on a weekly basis. It's 90 minutes. All of the sessions are privately with me. And we just do PMDD partner life together. You have email access to me on a daily basis, which is really, really helpful for my clients when they're in their luteal phase. Because instead of going off on their partner, I've had so many of my private clients email me and say, hey, I'm thinking this. And I've literally been able to talk them off the ledge, is what I call it. Because once you've done the damage in PMDD rage, or your partner's done something to irritate you or trigger you, if you don't have someone to work through that with, guess who you're going to work through it with your partner. And that is going to be with your anger. And it's really hard to work with the person that is triggering you. You're not going to get untriggered by your partner by talking to them even more about the thing that they're doing to trigger you. You have to get an outside help with that, because if you continuously think that just talking to them about the trigger and saying, you did this and you did this and you did this, that's not going to stop them from doing it. They're probably going to continue to do it, and even more, because they're triggered, because they triggered you being upset and reacting triggered them, and you're both showing up in the relationship being triggered. and without someone on the outside that really understands PMDD. And I cannot stress that enough. I cannot stress that enough. You have to work with someone who has or has had PMDD when it comes to your relationship. I don't give you all medical go through my PMDD symptoms. If you're not following me on Instagram, I'm in love with PMDD on Instagram, and I give you a daily account for every single day that I go through PMDD, every single day that I'm in my good days. So you get to see the good sides, the bad sides, all of the things, every single day in my stories. Go follow me, DM me. I talk to PMDD partners about 2 hours at least every single day about what's going on with them. But what I want to tell you when it comes to seeking help is you have to work with someone who has or has had PMDD, because if not, the tools are not going to work for your relationship. So what I was saying before was, I don't give you medical advice or tell you what kind of medicine to take for your symptoms. That's not my profession. That's not my level of expertise. I will leave that for others in the PMDD community or just doctors as a whole who work with menstrual health. I will leave it to them. So I know a lot of you DM me and ask me what supplements I take. I'm going to answer it right here. I don't take any. I don't take any supplements. I don't take any medications. I don't take anything. I make changes within my lifestyle. I adopt a holistic approach. That is my choice. I believe in you doing what's best for you. I have nothing against individuals that take anything that provides them with relief. I'm actually happy for everyone that is provided relief for. And I talk to a lot of PMDD partners in my DMs, and they're like, I tried this thing this month and it's working for me. I'm genuinely happy. So what I'm here to give you is relationship advice for your PMDD partner. And it is based on being with a PMDD partner. My relationship advice is not based off of cookie cutter relationships and things that will work for you only when you're not in PMDD. I'm not here for that, because I know, like a lot of the stuff, like be nice to your partner, be that, like, I'm not going to coach you privately and tell you basic information about what you should do in your relationship, because I'm pretty sure you know that. But I'm pretty sure what you don't know is how to navigate when you're deep in PMDD rage, when you're deep in PMDD insomnia and irritability, how to maintain a relationship through that. And that's what I help you with privately. And that's where the progress is made with my private clients, because they have someone that they can talk to get through those tough moments. Because a lot of times all you need to do is to just get through that moment. And then your whole PMDD cycle is going to be so much better with your partner, because you haven't done the damage. When you haven't done the damage with your partner, then it's nothing to recover from. Because, the PMDD symptoms go away. They go away when your period comes. And again, then you have, period symptoms and all that. But at least you haven't done damage to your relationship. Like, there's so many times where I've had really bad cramps and my period is on and all these things. And I'm like, but the best thing is when I can talk to my partner and know that I haven't done any damage with them. I'm more than willing to go through all the physical pain of just being on my period and whatever, versus being on my period, having all those symptoms physically, and then still having to clean up the mess from my relationship, which is overwhelming within itself. So I help you get through PMDD without doing further damage to your relationship. So if you know that that's what you need, go to my website, www.inlovewithpmdd.com, or you can go to my Instagram and apply. The link is in my bio. I am here to help you have the PMDD relationship that you desire and deserve. We got this. I hope this PMDD episode helped you and your partner in your struggles within your relationship. And if this is something that you know that you need help with and you need further support, individualized support, make sure you're going to inlovewithpmdd.com and you're getting those private sessions to really work through what you're going through in your relationship, specifically in regards to PMDD.
And also, I want you to leave a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts. What this does is it helps other PMDD sufferers and partners find this show that can help them get these free PMDD relationship tools. I remember what it felt like to not know that there were tools out there specifically for PMDD relationships. So I want to make sure that you are sharing these tools with others, share them on your social media, share them with people that you know that are also struggling in their PMDD relationships. Until next episode, this is Dr. Rose, your PMDD relationship psychotraumatologist. One more thing, I almost forgot. I now have the Fresh Start PMDD Partners Workbook. What this workbook can do is if you've had past traumatic experiences with your partner, past fights, past arguments, and they keep coming up every single month in PMDD, I created a Fresh Start Workbook so that you can deal with all of the traumatic experiences that have happened in the past in PMDD rage and all of these things so you can stop going through the same cycle again and again and again. So get that workbook. It comes with a video episode of the actual podcast that I recorded on getting a fresh start in your PMDD relationship. So you're not continuing the same cycle again and again and again. So make sure that you get that workbook. And if you need those individualized counseling sessions, you know where to go, inlovewithpmdd.com. Until next time, we got this. Love you.